Aaron was here for your wedding, right? Told Aaron. Yeah. Because he's the one who does all this stuff for us now.
He's the one he's studying a lot of Torah in a lot of different places.
Yeah. It's awesome. Okay, fine. So this is Ravitcher Meyer, as usual. Actually put together a few different years. Well, actually, just two. So here, turn over to the side. I think I gave the side that has Yud on the right side says letter Yud. Okay, so I want to just start with a question that Ravitcher Meyer was asked a couple of years ago, and then the rest of the piece there he gives a certain answer, but I want to look at a different piece from Ravitcher Meyer and then suggest based on this other piece an answer to the question that he was asked, not the answer he gives, just my own answer based on what he says on this other piece. Okay, so Sha'al, somebody. Do you know who that abbreviation is? It's Shlita, so it's somebody who's in the Chevra now. Oh, maybe. What's the Bays? Harav Gamliel? I don't know. Okay, Shlita. Somebody asked Ravitcher Meyer, Sha'al pi ma shemuva b'chazal, she'asa Korach litzanus mi mitzvahs mezuzah, mi mitzvahs tzitzis, she'nasan Moshe Rabbeinu olav shalom. That we know it's not mafresh this way in the psukim, but we know that from the midrashim that Korach, part of Korach's taina was he started questioning, the way that we say certain halachos within Hilchos Mezuzah and Hilchos Tzitzis that Moshe Rabbeinu gave us, Mipi HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from Hashem. So if Korach is questioning these halachos and these mitzvos, so the question is, Hari Lechora, Hari Nasa B'zeh Kofer B'chol HaTorah. This should make him into a kofer. Right? We should call Korach a kofer, because he was being kofer in some of the mitzvahs. Sha'kofer b'mitzvah achas. Sha'kofer b'mitzvah achas. Something. Borei dino kapikores. Somebody who is kofer in one mitzvah has a din of an apikores, right? V'halo kafi hamakubo b'pios b'nei Yisrael nechsheves tos Korach b'mashahaya bal machlokes. But the way everyone talks about Korach, right? Minhag Yisrael Torahi. The way everyone talks about Korach, what's Korach's thing? No one calls Korach a kofer. That's not the hagdara of Korach. The parsha of Korach is not a parsha of kfira. The parsha of Korach, what does everyone darshan about Korach? Everyone's shmoozing about Korach, which is what we're going to learn about tonight, is that he was a Baal Machlokes, right? No one's donning up and darshaning up the inyan of Korach as an apikores, right? So why is that? That's the question that he asked of Ravitcher Meyer. So in the piece there, we'll leave it there. The piece there, he goes on ba'arichos to suggest a very interesting answer, which really is very interesting, but not for right now. Okay, so what I want to look at is this other piece. If you shift over to the left now, which is from the Mayanos Hayam, and I thought was really very powerful. So the pasuk says, as we know, at the very beginning of the parsha, Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Ka'as ben Levi v'Dasan v'Aviram ben Eliyav v'On ben Peles ben Reuben. So Korach takes these people, forms his group, and tainas on Moshe. So Perish Rashi HaKadosh Vayikach Korach Lakach es atzmo letzad echad lihiyos nechlak mitoch ha'eda le'orer al ha'kahuna. That Rashi says, what does it mean by Yikach Korach? What's by Yikach? He took. What did he take? So Rashi explains, he took himself. Lakach es atzmo. He took himself. Litzad echad, to be on one side. Lios nechlak, to be separated, divided. Mitoch ha'eda, from the rest of the group of the congregation. Le'orer al kahuna, to have a taina on the kahuna. V'zeu shetirgem Onkelos v'ispalig. This is what Onkelos learns. The way he translates the word vayikach is v'ispalig, that he broke off, he separated, he split. Nechlak mishar ha'eda lahachzik b'machlokes akan. That he separated himself from the rest of the Eda to be in a machlokes adkan. That's what Rashi says. V'yesh lanu lahavin inyan v'ispalig. So let's understand, what does it mean v'ispalig the Korach ma inyano v'sharsho u'ma yesh lanu l'sakin b'zeh. What do we learn from this? What does this mean to us? What is the meaning of this in our experience? V'hinei isa behemshach Parshas. And we know from the later in the parsha. V'yihimi macharas v'yava Moshe el ohel ha'edos v'hinei parach mata Aaron lebeis Levi Vayotze perach v'yotze tzitz vayigmal shkid. The pasuk tells us that it was the next day, and Moshe came to the Ohel Ha'edus and the Mate of Aharon. Right, this was that Moshe said Boker Vayeda. Right, that in the morning we'll see who was right. If Korach's right, if Aaron, if we're right, in the morning we'll see. So what happens in the morning? Moshe comes, and what happens? The Mate, the staff of Aaron, sprouts all these different things. Ki yesh ladas, ki zeh Hashem yisbarach bachar b'mata Aaron. That which Hashem chose, the Mate of Aaron, who or nela me'od hanela mikol chai. This has to do with a light that is hidden and is very hidden from all living beings. I mean, there's something in this flourishing of the Mate Aharon that is deep beyond all that is visible to us. Asher lahasig zos hasaga, hu rak al yidei his achdos hanefashos b'tachlis hashalom. That understanding what's happening here, understanding the inyan of the Mate of Aaron, understanding the inyan of Mate Aaron is only possible through the unity, the coming together of all of the nefashos of the Jewish people in the tachlis hashalom, with complete and total peace and shalom. Meaning that in the revelation of Hashem choosing Aaron through the staff of Aaron is hidden a very deep light that is only revealed to us through the unity of all the Jewish people, the Tachlis Hashalom. Ukadil Kama, as we'll see later, we're in the middle of the middle column here. Bechinas Aaron HaKohen Oev Shalom V'Rodev Shalom, and that's why it's specifically Aaron. Because what's the inyan of Aaron HaKohen? The inyan of Aaron HaKohen is Oev Shalom V'Rodev Shalom. Oev Shalom V'Rodev Shalom, the person who loves peace and chases after peace. Ad Kedei Kach, so much so, she'ein haneshamos margishim atzmam kenifradim ela echad mamish ba'ahava v'hiskalulus. So what does it mean to have tachlis hashalom? Tachlis hashalom means that it's not just that I am me and you are you and we get along. That's shalom, that's peace. Tachlis hashalom is that I don't even really experience that there's a separation between me and you. We are part of one entity. That's tachlis hashalom. So Aaron's shalom of Oev Shalom V'Rodev Shalom was betachlis hashalom. That the unity, that the shalom that was brought into being was a shalom that created a sense of being echad mamish, ba'ahava v'hiskalulus. Bebechinas Moshe v'Aaron, asher pamim ksiv, we know that by Moshe and Aaron, sometimes in the Torah it says Moshe v'Aaron, in that order. Upamim ksiv Aaron and Moshe, and sometimes it says Aaron before Moshe. And we know Rashi says, why does it do it that way? To teach you that Aaron and Moshe are shkulim, that they're equal. But what does that mean? Ki klulim him ke'echad mamish. You can go in either direction because it doesn't matter. They're really one. They're the same, right? So if it's like, Yakov and Yakov, or Yakov and Yakov, but if it's both Yakov, then there's no difference between Yakov and Yakov or Yakov and Yakov because it's just one. So if Moshe and Aaron are really one entity, then it can be Moshe v'Aaron or it can be Aaron v'Moshe, but that's just, there's no difference. V'hu ha'inyan asher nizgal lebedor achron kedushas or shivas hayamim habal shem tov hakadosh v'talmidov asher heiru ba'olam derech avodas Hashem ha'idei hiskashus l'tzadikim. So this is the light that is revealed, this light of echad mamish, of the hisachdus hanefashos, which is the secret that is revealed through the Mate Aaron, that is the sign and the expression of Moshe v'Aaron over Korach. That light is nizgala specifically in the last generation, which is our times, which is through the Or Shivas Hayamim, the Baal Shem Tov, and his Talmidim, that they were meir, they illuminated the world through the avoda of hiskashus l'tzadikim. The avoda of hiskashus l'tzadikim is not invented by the Baal Shem Tov, right? The pasuk, we take it for granted, but if you think about the pasuk, it's a radical pasuk. Vayaminu b'Hashem u'v'Moshe avda. It was a radical statement. They believed in Hashem and Moshe. like together, right? It's the same thing, right? Ve'aminu b'Hashem u'v'Moshe avdo. Like to believe in Moshe is put in one fell swoop with believing in God himself. That, right? That's a pasuk. Similarly, the Gemara and says that how do you have dveikus? HaKadosh Baruch Hu was an Eishel Cheles, so how could you have dveikus? So the Gemara says dveikus in Hashem means dveikus to Talmidei Chachamim, dveikus to tzaddikim. So this is not a chiddush in Chasidus that they invented something, but there's a lot of different things in Torah, and the question is always, what do you emphasize? So all of it's there already, but the question is, how do you kind of arrange it, and where are you shining the spotlight that makes this front and center? So one of the things that Chasidus was nischadesh, that isn't a chiddush, but it's a chiddush of maybe of emphasis, you would say, is the avoda of hiskashus to tzaddikim. And somehow, this is what's really interesting, somehow he's saying that the avoda of hiskashus tzaddikim is the secret of how to be mekayim achdus and shalom. So that's what caught my attention about this piece, which we'll learn together and try and figure out why, right? But that's what's interesting with this. He's saying somehow the avoda of hiskashus to the tzaddik is the secret that you need in order to be able to have shalom with other people, not with the tzaddik, just with regular people. What's the connection between them? So that's an interesting question. But just back for a second to this thing of the echad mamish, which he says is something that is nisgale only in the end of days, the full true meaning of it, I thought was really interesting because the pasuk, obviously the very famous pasuk that we know, v'ahavta lecha kamocha, you should love your friend like yourself. So the question everybody asks is, well, how is kamocha? How is that possible? Kamocha, like yourself? Not like, there's no way. That's not a reality. The Ramban on the Torah already asks this question and handles with this. Like, what does it mean kamocha? And he even in the end says that you can't really learn kamocha literally. But Rav Hutner is ma'orer on this, and I don't remember exactly what Rav Hutner's answer is, but I remember I think I heard a shir from Rav Weinberg once, he talks this out, that Rav Hutner asks that we know, okay, so you're going to tell me kamocha doesn't mean literally kamocha. It means something else, but we know the rule is, the Gemara tells us, ein mikra yotze midei pshuto. A pasuk can't leave its basic meaning. You can't tell me that we can explain a pasuk in a way that makes it not retain the basic meaning of what it says. So what do you do with kamocha? I think the pshat is that in the end of days, what's going to end up happening is that everything is hadra to the beginning, meaning it's going to return to the basic, to the pshat, and the pshat is kamocha mamish, literally what he just said, echad mamish. For most of history, we can't experience echad mamish. So we have all these perushim to say kamocha doesn't literally mean kamocha. It's a measurement. It's a way of thinking about it. It's not literally kamocha, but it's my desani Allah l'chavercha lo savid. Think about what you wouldn't want done to you is what you shouldn't do to somebody else, right? So that's what kamocha means. But what about the pshat? And the answer is the pshat does remain the pshat. It's just that for 99% of history, we can't have the pshat. And in the end of days, we'll have the pshat, because in the end of days, what will be revealed is that it's literally kamocha, because it's echad mamish, because what we're going to see is he's going to explain how there can be a level of echad mamish, but that level of echad mamish is only accessible through the revelation of what the Baal Shem Tov teaches us. Okay, so that's what we'll see in a second. Derech Agav, a cool thing. My mother is a principal of a elementary school in New Jersey. I thought she did a really cool thing on my desani Allah l'chavercha lo savid and v'ahavta lecha kamocha. She got like I don't know, however, hundreds of little mirrors, like tefillin mirrors, or like I don't know, travel makeup mirrors, these little mirrors, and she put v'ahavta lecha kamocha printed on the mirrors and gave them out to all the students. And the lesson they were told was that if you want to think about how to treat somebody else, look in the mirror and ask yourself, would you want that done to you, or would you want that said to you? Wow. It's like the inyan of v'ahavta lecha kamocha is to carry a mirror with you. Carry a mirror in your pocket, literally or figuratively, to be able to live with v'ahavta lecha kamocha. Right? It's cool.
Wow, it's a real thing.
Yeah,
That's
right?
a real thing.
Very smart. Yeah. Okay. Shout out. Okay. So he says, so what is this? What is the avoda and the or, the light of hiskashus to tzaddikim that was brought out by the Baal Shem Tov into the world? That's going to give us the path into Achdus. So he says, Shehu inyan avodas b'nei Levi. Hiskashus to tzaddikim is the avoda of b'nei Levi. Because what does Levi mean? Bechinas hischabros v'hizdapkus. Levi is a connector. To be melava means to escort. Right? Melava malka, we bridge Shabbos in the week. So to be melava, Levi is the bridge. Levi is the connector. I think there's Bnei Yissaschar talks about Levi and Chol HaMoed. Chol HaMoed is the bridge between Chol and Moed. Something there's in Torah about that with Levi and Chol HaMoed maybe. So either way, so Levi is the bridge between the Kohanim and Yisraelim. That's Levi. Levi is the bridge, the in-between between Yisrael and Kohen. Kohen represents the tzaddik. That doesn't mean that the tzaddik is necessarily Kohen. It doesn't mean that the Kohen is necessarily the tzaddik. But Kohen represents the inyan of the tzaddik, and Yisrael represents the inyan of the regular people. So the inyan of Levi is the mechaber, the Hamon Am and the tzaddikim. That's the avodah b'nei Levi. B'chinas hiskabros v'hizdapkus. That's why they're called Levi. Shat talmid nidbak v'nichlal barabo ad shekol mahusam chad. To the point where the Talmud and the Rebbe become one, that the Talmud is subsumed into the reality of the Rebbe, that the Talmud sees himself as just being an extension of the Rebbe. You should take the word just out of that sentence. That the Talmud sees himself as being an extension of the Rebbe, right? That he rises to that level, that's what he is, that's how he defines himself. V'lo rak she'atachton nichlal be'elyon. And it's not only, though he adds something huge here, not only is the avoda of that for the Talmud to be kolel himself in the Rebbe, but also ela shegam ha'elyon nichlal betachton kenefesh achas. The other direction also, that the tzaddik is dissolving himself into the klal. The klal dissolves themselves into the tzaddik, and the tzaddik dissolves himself into the klal, and they become echad. They become one. The kasher is bar kol zeh lefaneinu. I think I've said this probably multiple times, but like if you're ever around in the Ravitchemeyer Chevra, you mamish feel this. Like these people mamish don't hold of themselves as a thing, right? Like they're not. They're the arms of the tzaddik. They're the tzaddik can't put out all of everything he says. So like we're writing it for him. That's what we're doing. We're not. We are at the service of the tzaddik. So continuing, Ki ba'olam yesh kama v'kama ovdei Hashem gedolim v'atzumim. There are many ovdei Hashem who are tremendous in the world. Asher yesh gam misdagfim u'misanim. There are those who even do sigufim. They afflict their bodies. They mamish are oved. They really serve God. They really are putting themselves through real work, fasting and overcoming different natural human inclinations, or afilu oskim b'sisrei Torah, and maybe even getting involved in the deeper secrets of Torah, v'hasagos, na'alos, and high lofty understandings. Aval choser ha'hisbatlus v'hiskashlos l'tzadik, but if they are missing the bittul and the hiskashlos to the tzaddik, harei shemahateyu lo parach, their staff is not bearing fruit. Right? Like Korach, who wasn't batal to Moshe, so his staff didn't bear fruit. Aaron, who was echad mamish with Moshe, Aaron v'Moshe, Moshe v'Aaron. So for him, right, it gave birth to something. Lo hitzitz tzitz v'lo gamal shkedim. I was thinking that's why maybe learning this Torah tonight. It's Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. So the Arizal we have in the sitters, the Arizal tells us that each month has a tseruf of the Osios Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, has a different permutation of how to arrange the 4 letters of Hashem's name, and that parallels, and every one of those parallels a pasuk. So the pasuk of the tseruf of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei for Tammuz is the pasuk of Zeh Einenu Shaveh Li. Right? Zeh, the last letter is Hey. Einenu, last letter is Vav. Shaveh, last letter is Hey. Li, last letter is Yud. So it's Hey, and then Vav, and then Hey, and then Yud, which is the backwards version of Yud Kei Vav Kei. And that's the Sofei Tevos of that is the Tserif of the month of Tammuz. Who said Ze Einenu Shevali? Who's Mi Amar El Mi, right? Back to elementary school, Mi Amar Mi. So Haman said it to his wife, I think, right? So Haman said it. What was he saying it about? Who's Ze? What's Einenu Shevali? What was Haman talking about? Haman was saying to his wife, I think, I have everything going. I have the king's, ring at my fingertips. I have the decree that I wanted. I have the whole world bowing to me. I have everything, but I don't have Mordechai. And because I don't have Mordechai, Zeh einenu shaveh. That's what Haman says. So everyone learns those words as a Musar Shmuz of you see how ungrateful and how negative a person can be, that they can have everything, but there's one thing they don't have, and they can focus everything on that. And how often in our lives do we have amazing, amazing things, but we're missing something, and we're just upset and fixated on the negative of what we don't have. That's the Musar Shmuz always, right? But if that's the only thing embedded in the pasuk, then how would it be that Hashem's name is found in those words? If the Arizal saying that in those words is the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, then obviously that means that something in those words is actually Kadosh. So what's Kadosh in those words? So what occurred to me a couple of years ago, I think on Purim actually, what occurred to me was, you know what? What Haman's saying is Emes Gomor. Haman spoke the ultimate truth with those words. What was he saying? I can have everything in the world, but the tzaddik hador is not on my side, so I have nothing. I can have everything, but if I don't have Mordechai tzaddik, I have nothing. Zeh einenu shavali. And he was 100% right, because a person can have everything, but if they're not makusher, this is what the Baal Shem Tov is teaching, this is what Rav Yitzchak is teaching here, if you're not makusher to the tzaddik, if you don't have his skashrus and his batlus to a tzaddik, and what that means is beyond me and is complicated. Can your tzaddik be somebody who's not alive anymore, but you're makusher to them and batal to them through svarim? Does your tzaddik have to be a rebbe that you can talk to? Can it be someone who is alive and you can receive from, but you can't have a personal? I don't know the answer to these questions, but if you don't have his skashrus to a tzaddik, then zein enu shavali, and that's why Hashem's name is in those words. And that's what he's saying here, right? So he's saying you can have Ovdei Hashem gedolim v'atzumim, but im chaser his batlus. We're on the left side column of the page that has a yud on the front and the right. So the column all the way on the left, the first paragraph, in the bold, im chaser his batlus ve'iskashlos l'tzadik. If you're missing that, harei shmateu lo parach v'lo hitzitz tzitz v'lo gamal shkedim. In order to come to truth, mochroch lios tikun hamidos. A person has to have tikun hamidos. The Gra, I'm not a baki or holding very much in the writings of the Gra, but my understanding is the Gra says that the tachlis of the entirety of Torah is to fix your midos. Right? I don't know if that's a machlokas with saying that the tachlis is dveikos. Right, and usually I talk about that the inyan is that the tachlis of everything is dveikos to Hashem. I don't know if it's a stira. It could be that it's because if you have tikkun hamidos, then you're dome to Hashem. So then the only way to have dveikos is to be like Hashem, which means that having dome lemidosav, that we have to try and be like Hashem. Mahu rachum afatah tehirachum. Just like God is merciful, you have to be merciful. So the way to have dveikos is through tikkun hamidos, and that's the inyan of the Gra. So maybe it's not a stira to the tachlis being dveikos. I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But either way, what the Gra writes, I think many times very explicitly, is that the tachlis of the entirety of Torah is to work on your midos, is to become a more refined person in your midos. So he says, Al menas lavel derech ha'emes, in order to get to the way of truth, mochrach lios tikun hamidos. The ikar tikun hamidos, what is the main aspect of tikun hamidos? We can work on midos of thinking before we speak. We can work on midos of not getting angry. We can work on midos of patience and of not being jealous and of seeing somebody positively and talking nicely. And we can think about a million different midos, right? But what's the essence? What's the essence of what it means to work on midos? Is one thing, one essence of it. His batlos echad l'sheni, is to relinquish the surrendering of the sense of self before somebody else. To let go of the self and to see the other person. To not be so consumed by my own self-absorption that I can't really allow for what the other person needs or wants or is feeling or is experiencing. That's at the essence of the whole thing. If I can do that, now Mamela, I can be more patient with them, I can see them more positively, I can speak in a nicer way, I mean, all the things, right? All the things. But the essence of it is the bittul to the other person. We talk a lot about bittul to Hashem. You know, in learning the Torah of Vitchemeyer and learning Chasidus and in our, our learning over the years, a lot about bittul to Hashem, but he's using that same language, bittul, to another person. Apparently this is in Maseches Chibot HaKever. Did you know that there's a Masechta called Chibot HaKever? It's an amazing name.
What does that mean?
Chibot HaKever is like in the grave, like what happens to you in the grave. Like, yeah. So in Maseches Chibot HaKever, Perek Daled, I only got to Perek Gimel in my, in Perek Daled of Maseches Chibot HaKever, it says that they ask a person, I think it's referring, I don't know Maseches Chibot HaKever, but I do think I've seen this before, I've heard this before. I think it's referring to that when you go up to Shemayim, Achar Mei V'Esrim, you go up to Shemayim, they ask you a bunch of different questions. So we know the Gemara's list of the classical questions, but there's another question, which is, Himlachta Chavercha Alecha. Did you make other people a king over yourself? That's the question you're asked in Shemayim. Himlachta Chavercha Alecha. Ukemo sheyesh inyan hisbatlus hatalmid l'rabo, just as there's an inyan of bittul of a talmud to a rebbe, kain yesh hisbatlus echad l'chavero. There's an inyan of bittul of one person to another. V'lo od, and furthermore, ela afilu b'chinas hisbatlus ha'elyon l'tachton. And just as he said before, that the bittul that happens between the tzaddik and the hamonam is not only a bittul of the Talmud, the student, the regular person, to the Rebbe, but it's also the bittul of the Rebbe to the student, the tzaddik to the regular person. So too, the bittul of one person to another, it's irrelevant if you are, whatever this even means, but if you're at a higher level than them, you're the Talmud Chacham, you're the accomplished person, you're the successful person, whatever it might mean, either way, either from below to above or above to below, it's the same thing, because Moshe v'Aaron, Aaron v'Moshe, as we said before. That if it's all echad, if it's all one, if you see the oneness, well, that's what he's going to get to in a minute. If we see the unity of the entirety of the Jewish soul, that is then fragmented into different bodies, but it's the unity of one soul. So then the other person I'm looking at, to think about myself in a way that precludes or blocks my capacity to think about them, is really to not even be thinking about myself, because it's echad, it's one. Okay, so let's see what he says. Yeah, go ahead.
Is the analogy really the right meaning? Sorry, let me try to get my words right. Moshe and Aaron, right? You're talking about two tzaddikim. For them to be one is I don't want to say not difficult. That diminishes the challenge that I'm sure each of them had, but that to me is not the same analogy of me to Rav Yitzchak.
Right.
It like that echad is not. I can understand a Rebbe and a Talmud having that type of relationship, but it's not going to be the same type of relationship as Moshe and Aaron.
Okay.
Like so like the comparison is it's just a hard comparison for me. That like if that's the echad, right. You know what I mean? That like that's the analogy to like that's my relationship with a Rebbe.
I don't know like, if this is exactly what you're asking, so tell me, but to me, if you think about it, I actually think there's a more difficult bittul between Moshe and Aaron than a regular person in Aaron or a regular person in Moshe, because it's actually like what we were talking about before we started. It's like, if I look at somebody, I don't have any challenge to be batel to Rav Weinberger, right? But if I look at one of the guys who's like doing something very similar to me, and probably knows a little bit more than me and is a little bit of a bigger following and whatever, that's really hard. That's really hard, right? To have like a bittul there, right? So the closer the two people are in like status, in a sense, I think makes the fact that Moshe and Aaron, my point is to say, the fact that Moshe and Aaron can have bittul is a bigger chiddush than the fact that, other people can have chiddush. Meaning, I think your question is coming from like, but they're both tzaddikim, so that's not that. What's the big deal? But I think that's a bigger deal. That's a harder avoda of bittul. The closer the people are in their nature or where they're holding, I think makes the avoda bittul much harder. To me, it's a chiddush that Rav Akiva Erlinger is batel to Rav Itchemeyer, because he could be holding his own tish. That's wild. That Rav Blau, I don't even know who he is, but you've told me Rav Blau. The fact that he's sitting there as if he's nothing next to Rav Itchemeyer, that's mind blowing. The fact that I'm sitting there like that, it's like, well, obviously,
I think the nakuda that I'm trying to bring out is a little different in that, like, but he's trying to say that that's the relationship I have to have with my Rebbe or Eitz Tzaddik should be the same as the relationship that Moshe and Aaron had. That to me is what I'm struggling with.
So what I'm saying though
not
is
the challenge that they had. I totally hear what you're
So
saying.
it seemed like more peers than like.
Right, I totally hear what you're saying as far as if he were trying to bring out the nakuda of like the nisayon that Moshe and Aaron had, then I hear what you're saying. But that's not the nakuda he's trying to say. The nakuda he's trying to say is learn from Moshe and Aaron, the same way that they were bittul to each other. That's how you need to be bittul to a Rebbe.
Right.
That's different. Almost like what you're saying. Yeah.
Right.
Like, of course I'm going to be bittul to a Rebbe.
Right.
I'm not saying, again, it's easy for us to say, like, if we are like that, if you're not.
Right.
You're not,
Right.
But you're like, it's just a tough, like, comparison for me.
Yeah.
Like.
Except that maybe because of the fact, the way that I'm thinking about it is that because of the fact that I think it's such because that's the hardest. The Moshe Aaron is the hardest place to have bittul.
Right.
So the fact that they could do it, the fact that they could do it brings out what is really the yesod of bittul.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's really the yesod of bittul, meaning when it's such a huge gap between the two people that there's going to be bittul between them, that doesn't really bring out such a yesod of bittul, because there it's almost just obvious that they can have bittul. Mm. How could Moshe and Aaron have bittul? Meaning, in the examples I was giving before, like where it is challenging, right? So how do you do it? Where does the bittul come from? That's what surfaces, like what we're really trying to do, which we still don't know yet. How did Moshe and Aaron have bittul? How do these tremendous people sit by Rav Itchemeyer as if they're nothing?
Were you here when Rav Shor was matarim for
no.
Shaul Alter?
No.
It was the craziest thing ever. I really mean it. It was like insane. Like I think
What happened?
Rav Shaul Alter came and he spoke at the Aguda, and he doesn't speak English, so they flew in Rav Shor, and Rav Shor translated. I'm like,
right.
So I asked Rav Shor. He was like, "It's Rav Shaul Alter."
Right.
You know what I mean? Like to him, I'm nothing.
Right.
It's like unreal.
Wow.
Like,
wow.
You know.
Yeah. But the truth is, maybe I'm just like thinking that. Maybe I'm even oversimplifying it, because I don't even know it's so pashut, right? Meaning the Biyam Darkecha, now everyone knows who he is, but he published Biyam Darkecha under Rav Itchemeyer's name, and he did not have his name in the Sefer, right? I don't think I can imagine. Let's say I was Zocha to put out something of Rav Itchemeyer's Torah. Let's say I translated, or no way in the world am I not putting my name on that. No way. I'm putting my name everywhere on that. Now, I'll probably try and do it in a way that makes me look modest, because I want everyone to think I'm modest. But that's also just part of the gaiva, you know?
Right.
Like I'm going to put it, you know?
Right. Spell your name
Right.
backwards.
Yeah. But vidaf, you know?
Yeah.
So even that, I'm not sure that it's as pashut as I'm making it sound.
Right.
You know? I don't know. Thoughts? Okay, let's keep going. Let's see what he says.
I'm still waiting for you to tell us what it means to have Vegas to the Sabbath.
Right.
Right,
I don't know.
that
Let's
right.
see.
What
Yeah.
Like, what
Let's
does that
see.
actually mean?
What does it mean?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's see.
He talks about this all the time.
Yeah.
Having a connection.
Yeah. He talks about this all the time. What I think is cool in this piece is I not that I've seen so much from him, but I don't remember seeing somewhere that he connects the inyan of a bittul to the tzaddik as being the path to bittul to other people and to tikkun hamidos and beinan l'chavero in general, right? Like that's what I think is unique in this piece. Okay, right? So in this Meseches Chiba Kever, it says they're going to ask us in Shemaim, Himlachta chaver chalecha, did you make your friend a king over you? Kamash yesh inyan his batlus hatamid l'rabo king yesh his batlus ech l'chaver v'lo odel afil b'chinas his batlus ha'elyon l'tachton, right? Fine. V'hagam she'avodas hamidos hu inyan kashe. Working on our midos is a very difficult thing. In some ways, it's the hardest thing. I think, what's the line from Vishal Salanter, maybe? That he said that it's easier to finish all of Shas than to fix one midah. I haven't done either. Aval zehu shoresh kol haTorah v'chol hakedushos. So it's a hard thing. Taka, it's a hard thing, avodas hamidos. But he says this is the shoresh of the entirety of Torah and all of Kedusha. Which really already is what Hillel says in the Gemara. The Ger comes and asks, right? Famously, the Ger comes and asks Shammai, right? Teach me the entire Torah standing on one foot, and Shammai pushes him out, or whatever that means. And Hillel says, I'll answer you. I'll teach you the whole Torah on one foot. And Hillel says, my desani Allah lechavercha lo savid. That which you wouldn't want done to you, don't do it to another person. Zehu kol haTorah kula. That is the entirety of Torah. The idach zil, the idach perusha, and everything else is its perush, is the commentary on that. Zil Gemara, go learn it. Right? Like that's this. That the entirety of Torah is about midos. Ad kedei kach, so much so, shedoeg ha'adomi hayat talmid chacham gadol ma'od. Doeg was in Nach. Who was he in the times of David HaMelech? Maybe, is that right? That he was a tremendous Talmid Chacham, the Yada Kol Torah Kula, and he knew the entirety of Torah. Afal Pichein Ein Lo Chelik Ba'alma Da'asi. The Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us he doesn't have a place in Olam Haba because he was lacking in midos. V'chein Korach, so to Korach Shenemar Bo Vayikach, and this is the inyan of our parsha. That Korach, it says Vayikach, he took. V'tirgam Onkelos says, what does it mean? He took. He split himself off. That he made himself his own entity. He fell to the depths of the world, literally and figuratively. He was swallowed up. And why is this not given enough significance, though, now he says, right? Right? Like, why is this not given enough significance? Right? I can probably spend time giving a social commentary and critique about how the yeshivas and the drushas and shul and all these things don't give enough significance to work in our midos. Or I could also just, say that I don't give enough significance to midos, because how much time do I spend learning or working on different things or wanting to do this better or that time better? How much time do I really spend thinking about midos, thinking about Melchavero, right? Why? So Vichmar is saying, why? Why don't we give it enough significance? He says, Ki ein mi sheyavin shoresh kedusha hazos. We don't appreciate how deep the kedusha is of avodas hamidos. Ki hu inyan nelam v'nister ma'od. The depths of how significant working on our midos is really hidden to us. We don't appreciate how significant it really is. So, just before we keep going, what I wanted to suggest, I started out, for those who came in after, we started out by looking at a piece from a Vitchemeyer in a different year, where they asked him a question of, we know that Chazal tell us that Korach was he was kofer in Moshe, in what Moshe taught them about the halachos of mezuzah and the halachos of tzitzis, which means that that Korach was a kofer and not bikores. So why doesn't anyone ever talk about that? Korach was a kofer. Like, that's not the inyan of Korach. The inyan of Korach is what we're learning about now. Is the machlokes is right? Why is it not an inyan of a kofer? You don't find that language anywhere. That's what they asked of Itchmeyer. So he has a whole very interesting long answer. But what I wanted to suggest before we continue, what I wanted to suggest is maybe the answer is because Enochnami is a kofer, but lacking midos is worse than being a kofer. So you mind just closing the door? Thank you. Lacking midos is worse than being a kofer. So the emphasis, all the Torah is about. He was Enochnami. He was both. He was a kofer and he was selfish, both. It's polig, right? But the entirety of Klal Yisrael's drashas and the Mesorah we have about Korach is completely focused on his selfishness, because the selfishness is worse than being a kofer. Kibul Yamine, exactly. Right. Okay. V'sibas hadavar, that's what we just read. That the reason people don't give it enough significance is because we don't understand how important it is. V'hinei ikar tachlis hamitzvah hu. I would say, by the way, just not that my words are worth much next to Vitchemeyer's, but I would say it's also the reason we don't give it as much significance is not only that we don't appreciate how deep it is. I'm sure that's true, but I would say it's also because it's just so much harder. In a certain sense, I think it's much easier. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's not true for everyone. I don't know. I think there's a lot of truth to it. It's much easier to work on Be'elam L'Makom than Be'elam L'Chavero. But maybe I don't know. Lav Dafka. Maybe that's not true for everybody. Maybe different people are different. I don't know. As I'm saying it, it's not true. I guess the Rav Yisrael Salanter line is saying that. Right? The Rav Yisrael Salanter line is that it's easier to learn all of Shas than it is to fix one midah. I don't know. Okay. V'hinei ikar tachas hamitzvah hu hizdapkus be'atzmus hapashat. Turn a page over. Shoresh hahizgalus koach hapela lemala mehadas v'hasaga. So he says the tachlis of the mitzvah. What does he mean when he says ha-mitzvah, the mitzvah? What mitzvah is he referring to? Does he mean mitzvahs in general? Or he means the mitzvah of hiskashus the tzaddikim? Or he means the mitzvah of working on your midos? Or all of it? I don't know, I'm not sure exactly that. That the tachlis ha-mitzvah is, I mean, either way we're going to get what he's saying, but I don't know exactly what. Is the hisdapkos, is the clinging, the attaching oneself to the essential essence, atzmus hapashat, to the simple, basic essence, shoresh ha'izgalus, which is the root of all revelation, and koach hapele, the power of wonder, the koach hapele of wonder, like enchantment, which is lemala mehadas v'asaga, which is beyond our understanding. The Amru Chazal, and Chazal say, Shepagam Korach haya, Korach's fault was Shecholak al HaShabbos. Apparently the Zohar says that Korach was cholik on Shabbos, the inyan of Shabbos. Or does it mean that he was cholik on Shabbos, meaning when he started his machlokas, it was on Shabbos? That's what you think it means?
Shabbos,
that it was Shabbos.
Yeah,
okay.
A lot of the fights break out.
That's true.
That's when the breakaway didn't start.
Ki Korach avad lefi hasagaso. Korach's avoda was based on his understanding of things. This is what like Rav Soloveitchik talks about. Rav Soloveitchik has a famous speech he gave about Korach. He called Korach the common sense rebellion. It's when people rebel against Talmidei Chachamim from a place of common sense. They don't necessarily really know Kol HaTorah Kula to really understand the way that Torah works. they know a couple of things, and they use their common sense to think that they know better than what the Masorah and what real Torah is holding. It's called the common sense rebellion. That's what Rav Yitzchak is saying here. Korach avad lefi hasagaso. He wasn't able to stay in a place of saying, this might be operating at a level higher than my understanding. And my common sense doesn't allow for it to make sense that a room full of svarim, the mezuzah and the tcheles and all his different kal v'chomers that he was making, I forgot exactly how they go, but the different kal v'chomers he was making, which were based on his common sense, he wasn't able to maintain a state or a stance of saying, okay, my common sense is that this doesn't make sense, but there is some sense that's beyond me of what's going on here. Let me be in a state of bittul until I can receive what that might be. But he was only working lefia hasagaso. V'ispale galzeh, sheyesh inyan shel pele. He separated himself. He argued on this inyan of pele. What does it mean, pele? Pele means wonder. There's a wonder. There are things we don't understand. The Ramah says, what does it mean when we make the bracha? Mafli lasos, after you go to the bathroom. Mafli lasos, the Ramah says, is that the pele is that we can't understand how there is unity between body and soul. Like, how does the spiritual and the physical interact? How is their interaction? Like, we can understand, we can understand the physical body to a certain degree. We can make sense of it. We might even be able to make sense of the spiritual. But it's like we can do one or the other, right? But like, how could it be that there's both and that they actually interact with one another? Like, how does that work? That's a pele. But pele means that there's something that we are in a state of wonder about. If a person only accepts or is only willing to look at or think about things that they understand or to the level of their understanding, they never experience curiosity. They never experience wonder. That's a lack of pele. So somebody who has no openness to the idea that there's something higher than my understanding doesn't have pele. Pele means that I know that I am not able to see the entirety of everything going on. So really, bittul and pele are two sides of the same coin, right? In order to have the ability to experience pele, to experience that there's niflos habore, that there's the wonders of creation, of the Creator, niflos habore, and to experience mafli lasos, a person needs to be able to have some state of bittul. Right? There needs to be the ability to not know in order to experience a knowledge that will come that's greater than oneself.
Meaning that logic limits you?
Yeah, the logic limits me. Yeah. Or limiting things to my logic limits me, right? The logic inherently is not a problem.
Right.
And the desire, right, 100%.
Right.
And the desire for things to make sense is not a problem either. We're supposed to want things to make sense, of course. That's how we're wired. But the inyan is that if I can't accept that things that I don't now understand could still make sense, I just haven't arrived there yet, and I need to be in a state where I'm willing to suspend understanding until it comes, then I'll never understand anything deeper than myself. I'm stuck. So the desire to understand is not a bad thing. Logic is not a bad thing, but it's that I have that from a stance of bittul, that I'm batel, I'm surrendered, I'm suspended, I'm paused on my understanding because my understanding doesn't grasp this yet. There is something more here that I haven't reached yet, which means I'm staying in a state of curiosity, a state of pele. Shehu amitios mitzios yichur Hashem, shehu pele nora ma'od. And the ultimate wonder, the ultimate pele, is the reality of yichur Hashem, of Hashem's oneness. Because it totally doesn't make sense to us. Like, I'm me and you're you and these are my keys. Like, what does it mean that this is all one? Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So either a person, because it doesn't make sense, says, okay, so it's not true. It doesn't make sense, so I don't believe it, I don't accept it. Or a person might say, okay, so I believe it, but it's true, but it's not even meant for us to think about. Like, we're not supposed to even Like that's another version of not having Pele in my opinion. It's better than dismissing it, but it's also a version of not having Pele, because it's the inability to stay in the presence of something that I don't understand. So you'll have people who they believe that it's true, but we're not supposed to think about it. Right? Pele means we're supposed to think about it and be okay with not understanding it. That's the state of being enchanted by it. The state of being in a place of wonder, which really is the most moving and most life-giving thing in the world. But a person needs to have openness to that. And really what it comes down to is I need to be okay with going through something I don't understand, which really requires bittul. Shebezem mushrosh avodas hatzadikim v'bechinas ani ledodi v'alai tishukaso. That the pasuk in Shir Hashem says, "I am for my beloved, and upon me is his desire." Is that translated correctly? Chukaso is upon me is his desire, or upon me is my desire for him? I think it's upon me is his desire, right? I am for my beloved. We know the classic Ani ledodi v'dodi li, but another pasuk in Shir Hashem, which really is very similar inyan, is Ani ledodi, I am for my beloved, va'alai tishukaso, and upon me is his desire. Ki be'emes kol echad mi Yisrael tzarech lehizboni b'chol eis b'yichad habori yisbarach. A person, a Jew, really needs to be thinking about the unity of Hashem, the oneness of Hashem, the lo b'yichad bilvad ela ba'amitas hayichad of Hashem yisbarach. Not only, the way I'm understanding these words, I don't know if this is correct, but not only that I'm thinking about Hashem's yichud, about himself, but I'm thinking about the truth of Hashem's yichud with me. That I'm part of that yichud, that my existence is also part of that yichud, that I'm also subsumed and consumed and dissolved into that state of oneness. That's what my identity is also, not just in a theoretical philosophy about God, but about my existence. And now he says this is such an incredible line: "V'hasimin sheYehudi osek bezeh." The sign that a Jew is osek in really believing in Hashem's oneness, hu shemechabed kol echad miYisrael, is that they honor other Jews, all Jews. When I saw this line is when I decided, okay, this is the piece we have to do tonight, because it's so intense. The sign that a person is really truly in a state of believing in Hashem. How do you test if a person? Yourself, we don't have to test each other, test myself. How do I know if I really believe in Hashem's oneness? Not how I say Kriya Shema, not how much I learn, not what my tefillah on Yom Kippur is. The way that I know, that the litmus test to where I'm holding in my belief in Hashem's oneness, is how much I give respect and honor to other Jews. And I know what brings my giving them respect. How does that happen? Is through the knowledge that they are a part of the oneness of Hashem. That only through them and through the other person and through the other person, only through the entire collective of the Jewish people, and really on some level of the entire world, but more focused and concentrated for our avoda is of all the Jewish people, is the yichud of Hashem can only truly be manifest into this world if the entirety of the Jewish people is online, plugged in to the part of that unity that they are bringing into the world. So if I really believe that everything is part of the unity of Hashem, and that everyone is revealing another part of that unity, if I actually believe that, then I would look at the other person, even if they look disgusting to me, even if they look annoying to me. I would look at them and see that this person is part of the revelation of the unity of Hashem. So I'm going to be treating them with dignity, because that's what I believe they are. So if I'm not treating them with dignity, it means I don't truly believe that the entirety of the Jewish people is Yichud Hashem. I think that Hashem is 99%, but not there. And as the Kotzker says, Charifus of the Kotzker says, if you don't believe that Hashem is everywhere, then you don't actually believe that Hashem is anywhere. What he's saying is actually more of it sounds like Charifus, but I actually think it's not. What he's saying is actually a philosophical statement. Because Hashem is everywhere. So if you believe he's not somewhere, then whatever you're believing in is not really believing in Hashem. So if there's somewhere you don't believe he is, then that means that you actually, even where you think you believe he is, you're not really believing he's there. Because that's not really him, because he is everywhere. Right? So if I don't see that in a Jew, that I can see, that I can treat them with respect. Now the Baal Tanya gives us a very important thing here. Because if that's all I heard, it would be very hard for me. I'm way too judgmental, and I'm way too, like, I get too fixated on things that bother me. So like this, it's a nice Torah, but then when I would try, like I can get into it here, but like in lived life, I would have a very hard time being real with it. And this is where Perek Lamed Beis in Tanya saved my life. Because Perek Lamed Beis in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says that there's a mitzvah of Sinas Yisrael when someone's a Rasha. There's actually, there's a mitzvah to hate Jews when they're Rishayim, God forbid. Right? But there's also a mitzvah to love Jews. And the Alter Rebbe says that they exist simultaneously. Because the mitzvah to hate the Jew is not chas v'shalom, to hate them in their essence. It's to hate the part of them that's doing something wrong. And simultaneously, you can love the part of them that is a chelak al kami mal mamish. And it's not a contradiction. So, the reason that teaching saved my life is because it gave me permission to be human, which then is what gives me the ability to try and actualize a Torah like this. Because otherwise, like, okay, so what am I supposed to do with the fact that, like, okay, very nice, I'm supposed to believe that they're a manifestation of God, but they certainly don't look like a manifestation of God right now. So what do I do with that, right? But the point is, you can do both. You can say that what I'm seeing right now, I dislike. What I'm seeing right now, I dislike, but I can see them as being that what they are at their essence and what they're supposed to be and what's embedded in them in their fundamental wiring, that no matter what they do, they can't escape because it is actually what it is. It's what they are, is a part of the collective revelation of Hashem into this world. And that aspect of them can bring me to be able to see them, even if it's at least just in potential. I can see them with that sense of kavod, with that sense of respect, and still dislike the particular thing of what they're doing or what they're saying or how they're acting. And if I can't do that, where Vitchemeyer says is that should be a reflection back to me, that means I don't really believe in the unity of Hashem. Okay, so continuing, he says, Ella, however, as we know, this sounds very nice, but it's hard. Why is it hard? Shahasam mikatri al zemaod, because the Sam, the other side, is going to try and get us on this a lot. Why is it going to try and get us on this a lot? Why is this one of the main things that the Sitra Achra, the other side will try and get us on? Because it's one of the most important things. And the highest, most important things are the things that we get stumbled on the most. The Gorim, and it causes Shafilu Tzadikim, She'ovdim es Hashem, even Tzadikim. Aval yesh she'ein lahem amitas ha'asaga b'yichad habore. They don't really properly have a true internalization of the oneness of Hashem. V'chol zeh al yedei she'einan roem inyan gadol b'ha'avod l'chabed et chadas chavero. Why? But again, you see here how he's linking them. It's incredible. Why does someone not have a true appreciation of Hashem? Because they're not really giving enough significance to the avodah of how they treat another person. Be'achdos pashut, that they're not looking at the other person from the perspective of you and I are one. V'hisbatlus ka'afar, and being mevatel himself like afar, like we say in Shemona Esrei every day at the end. V'nafshi ka'afar lakoltia, that my soul should be like, or my life should be like afar, like dirt. What's the inyan of like dirt? Remember my Rebbe in MTA, Rabbi Danto, shout out to Rabbi Danto. in either 10th or 11th grade. I remember he said I don't know who he said it from. The vort was that v'nafshi ka'afar lakol tiyeh is that what happens when you step on dirt? It compacts itself. Oh, interesting to think about that. What he said is that dirt compacts when it's stepped on, and it strengthens itself to support the one that's stepping on it. So v'nafshi ka'afar lakol tiyeh is that I want to be that when someone needs someone to find their footing, I can be there to be stepped on. That I will, even when I feel like I might be being stepped on, I can compact myself to strengthen myself, that I can be firm for them to find their footing. That they can balance themselves on me. I can be there for them. Even if it means that I'm on the bottom. Okay, what are you saying? That makes an imprint?
Yeah, mine totally messes up your
Interesting. I can allow them to make an imprint on me. I'm open enough for them to make an impact on me. Maybe that too. Maybe that's a beautiful idea. Mm-hmm. That I want to be in such a state that I'm not so closed off to people. That's a beautiful teaching. Mm-hmm. Right? That I want to be open enough to other people that people can make an impact on me. Right? That I can receive from them. That the design of the bottom of their shoe can actually register in my world. Right? Interesting. Cool. Shkoyach. Okay. That we can be mevatel ourselves like afar to the other person. Bechinas mana dekulu mamish. Bechinas v'nafshi ka'afar lakol tiyeh. Like that, like we just said. Shebezet talei sod hayichud. The secret of unity, of Hashem's unity, rests on our ability to access this as our mindset for how we treat other people. Lehisbatel zelazet, to be mevatel ourselves one to another. B'derech hayichud de kedusha v'lo hafel. V'tamid la'ora kol minei nekudos shel shiflos b'chinas afar mamish, to bring out our state of awareness of our low points, ba'ofen she'yiz achdu halavavos ke'achar mamish, to make ourselves to recognize our oneness with everyone. Shirak zehu hakedusha amitis. This is the true kedusha. V'hinei mashe nitzrach la'adam kedei la'ora hisgalos amitos hanal. So what does a person need in order to be megala this within themselves? Their koach, their capacity to do everything we just talked about. What is needed? Koach hapela. So now he comes back to that point he made before. What's needed for that is the koach hapela, the ability to be okay beholding something that you don't understand, that I don't need to reject it and I don't need to table it. I can stay in consciousness of it even without understanding it. Asher his galus zeh hapela hu rak la'idei mesiras nefesh. And this takes mesiras nefesh. It's not a simple thing. It's mesiras nefesh. Why is it mesiras nefesh? I think because mesiras nefesh means that I'm willing to sacrifice myself. So there's one level of mesiras nefesh means that I will allow that if someone says that I have to be over the avodah zara, or they're going to kill me, I'm going to die for the sake of for Hashem's truth. Mesiras nefesh means that if I'm tremendous tzaddikim in Sahal, that someone jumps on a grenade for the sake of their group, right? That's mesiras nefesh. But mesiras nefesh, while being alive, means that I'm alive, but being alive is not about me. I'm giving over my life for the other person, which can be extremely difficult, maybe in some ways even more difficult. Because I'm still alive, but I'm not alive about me. And that's the koach hapela. Because if it's all about me, if I don't have mesiras nefesh, if I don't have bittul, so I need to understand it, because it needs to make sense to me. If it doesn't make sense to me, it doesn't work. Mesiras nefesh means that it might not make sense to me. I'm willing to forego my understanding, my need for it to make sense. When you have that, so then he continues. So we're gonna skip a little bit. So what you have in front of you, I cut out parts of it. So go now in the middle column to the paragraph that starts v'chol zman. So just skipping the first few lines. Mm-hmm. It says v'chol zman. V'chol zman she'ein adam yodea me'amitios hayichud. So long as a person doesn't have this true understanding, as I eno yodea she'ikar hamesiras hanefesh betachlis hilavo la'amitios hayichud. They don't understand that this is what mesiras nefesh is really about. Mesiras nefesh really brings us to yichud. Because so long as I'm focused on myself, I can't really see that there's something bigger that I can be part of. There's I think I've probably quoted this before, it's very cheesy, but I actually think it's a great metaphor that illustrates the point. There's a story they tell that or an allegory, I don't know what the word would be, of two waves in the ocean. And they're the wave reaches its climax and it's about to crash down, right? And it's about to start coming down. And the first wave, and the first wave sees that the wave behind it is getting very nervous, and he turns to the wave behind him. He says, "Why are you so nervous?" And the wave says, "Because we're about to crash down, and then I'm not going to exist anymore." And the first wave says, "No, that's exactly why I'm so excited. Because when we crash down, we're going to become part of something so much bigger than ourselves. We're going to be part of the ocean. Right? Now that we're elevated up here, so we're just a wave. When we fall back down, we're part of the entire this tremendous body of water." I've always thought that's pshat in in Pirkei Avos they say one of the miracles that happened in the Beis Hamikdash was omnim sefufim u'mishtachavim revachim. When they were standing, they were very crowded. It was claustrophobic, and when they bent over and they bowed, there was a lot of space. So I always wondered, what's pshat? That's a double miracle, right? But it's only listed as one miracle. But that should be a double miracle, right? Because what it should have said was omdim tzvufim u'mishtachavim tzvufim. If when you're standing, there's no room, you shouldn't be able to bow. So the miracle is that they were standing packed in like sardines, and when they started to bow, they were able to bow. But they were still tight. That would be a miracle. But it says when they stood, they were tight, and when they bowed, there was room. There was a lot of room. So that's a double miracle, right? But I think the pshat is that because when a person is omed, when a person is standing, they're tall, they're taking the space, it's how I see things. It's about me. I'm my own entity. So everything then is tight. Omdim tzifufim, everything is tight. There's no room for anyone then. Mishtachavim, if you're willing to bow, if you're willing to be moser nefesh, you're willing to say there's something beyond myself, then revachim. Now there's space for everyone, including me. It's the Korach HaPeleh, this state of wonder which emerges from the belief and the capacity to tolerate that there's something more than me that I haven't accessed yet, is the greatest gift that I can receive for myself too, because then I get to be part of that. Which really is what the Mittler Rebbe says is his Hagdara of Simcha. What is Simcha? The Mittler Rebbe says, Simcha is the experience of being part of something bigger than yourself. That is what Simcha is. It's the experience of being part of something bigger than yourself. So that's what he's talking about here, I think. Va'azai hu b'madregas ve'ispalig. When a person doesn't have everything we just said, then they are living in a state of ve'ispalig that we started out with. That's Korach, ve'ispalig. That he separated himself. He splintered himself off. He stood as his own thing, omed. He was his own wave. He wasn't part of the ocean. I'll read through a little bit quickly, and then we can try and understand, bring this together. We can try and figure it out together. When a person enters this real state of yichud, and they're not in a place of like Korach of Ispalig, true unity of all the Jewish souls. That in its root comes back again, and he hasn't really connected them for us yet, but I think you can probably already see why this is all connected. He said, where does it come from that I can be mevatel myself to other people? It comes from being mevatel myself to the tzaddik. So what he's really saying is there's three different aspects of bittul, which really are all flowing one from the other. There's bittul to other Jews, there's bittul to the tzaddik, and there's bittul to Hashem. And they really all are one and the same, because they're all about the achdus gamor of everything being echad. So I don't know which, he keeps kind of going back and forth, like which one comes first. I don't know, maybe for this person it starts with bittul to the tzaddik, which when you access bittul to the tzaddik, it creates within you the ability to mevatel yourself, which you then can apply to bittul to Klal Yisrael. Maybe for other people it starts with bittul to Klal Yisrael, which then allows you to have bittul to tzaddik, which then allows you to have more bittul to Klal Yisrael, which then really is what allows you to have bittul to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And maybe for other people it starts with tefillah, which allows you to have bittul to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which then allows you to have bittul to Klal Yisrael, then to the tzaddik, then back to... But it's all really one thing, because it's all about understanding that the entirety of everything is Elokus, and it's all echad, and it's all something that's beyond me, and I'm one part of it. And I'm an aspect of that. I've always also, just going back to like the anecdotal experiential aspect of this Torah is the thoughts, but the experiential part of it is being around a Vitchemeyer. What you experience there, I've always experienced there, is two things. The first thing is that everyone there is so completely and totally devoid of any ego, klape the tzaddik. But the other thing that's very cool is that the people there truly have, they're so welcoming and interested in helping you to connect to the tzaddik. It's like they're really, when you walk in there, all they want to do is like get you into the tzaddik. It's none of that like protectia, like hierarchy of like, no, you can't, it's like they just want to help you be able to get in. Because they're in a state of bittul. So it's bittul to the Ritchemeyer, it's bittul to you, and it's bittul to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Because it's one thing. It's not about me. That's the point. It's not about me. Kikol ma sheyesh machlokes. All machlokes. Huraka she'ein dveikem ba'amityas hayichud. When we don't have this understanding of yichud. Ki zeh hadavar hayachid sheyachol lahamshich shalom ba'olam. This is the only thing that can create shalom. It's the pasuk, Osa shalom bimromov. Hu yasa shalom aleinu. Where does shalom come from? Bimromov, above. When you connect to above, that which is the all-encompassing unity, that's what creates shalom. And then hu yasa shalom aleinu. It can bring shalom down to us. Lechape says ha'emes ki lekachno tzarta. This is what we're created for. We have to give ourselves over to that. Even if I don't understand it, I can't understand it. I can know it's there though. That only this can bring me to a place of menucha. And we can't really be kind to other people if we don't have menucha within ourselves. We don't even fully understand it. But even if I don't understand it, I can still enter into it through his kashas to a tzaddik. This is where Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai revealed on the day of his death, that same pasuk. I am for my beloved, and upon me is his desire. Kol haneshama tahalaka. All neshama sings out praise to Hashem. Shelo rak. So what is the Rashbi teaching us in the days of his leaving this world? Shelo rak al yedei bechinas misa bechinas mesiras nefesh v'lvad tavo hageula. Not only with mesiras nefesh, by giving up your life that you actually die. Not only is that the way that the geula comes. Ela hageula tavo al yedei shenishmas Yisrael yasigu shorish mesiras nefesh shugodol koach amitus heyichud. I think what he's saying is that what the Rashbi revealed to us is the mesiras nefesh is not in death. Mesiras nefesh is in life. And that's the or of Moshe Rabbeinu. This is why it was, how did Hashem reveal the truth of the tzaddik of whom Moshe was? Korach came and argued with Moshe, but Hashem revealed the truth of Moshe's camp. Not through Moshe, but through Aaron. Why through Aaron? Because that's what Aaron was. Aaron HaKohen Yesh Bo Zosu B'china Shu Batel L'Moshe Rabbeinu, because Aaron was the embodiment of Bittul to Moshe. Like we were talking about before. That's the ultimate Bittul, is when you're actually theoretically close enough to be in competition. And yet, no, I'm not in competition, because what's the competition? It's me and me. V'ukol games b'chinas korach, ki k'sheyehudi moser nafsho al amitios hayichud, afilu shezel lokeach zmanim tuva, she'over al kol neshama gvuros meniyos shloyam v'godol koach hayichud Hashem, l'motzei zos. Okay, keeps going. That's why it was Dafka Aaron. 1 second, let me just see if there's one more part that we want to read together. he keeps reiterating this point, right? He says this is the only way, this kind of shalom is the only way that the Geula can come. And this kind of shalom is the only way that we can be masig real emes, we can have real truth. So let's just read the end of it together to cap it off. So skip now to the left side, and we'll read the last 2 paragraphs together, where he starts off Yitin Hashem. Yitin Hashem, so Hashem should give us, and we say this as a tefillah. As Menachem taught that we should turn all Torah into tefillah. This is ending with a tefillah. Yitin Hashem shenenatzel be'elo azmanim, in these times. I don't remember which year this is from, but Samachas. Okay, so when is that? It's already a while ago. Yeah. Right, it says in the bottom here, yeah, Samachas, right. So it's already a while ago, but all the more so now. All the more so now that Hashem should give us in these times. Hashem should save us in the Sitra Achra. That the Sitra Achra tries to get us into a frame of Vispalik, splitting ourselves off. By the way, the most ironic thing of all, which I think is such a poignant thing to realize, it's so striking. What was Korach's taina on Moshe? His taina was kol ha'ida kulam kedoshim. So on the surface of it, which means that Korach was saying that the entirety of the Jewish people is holy. So what did Korach make it seem like he was the champion of? Achdus. But what was really going on? Vispalig. Korach was the one splintering. How often am I justifying my disgust of another person in the name of something holy? Most of the time, right? Sometimes I'm just an outright, who knows what. But most of the time, I have a very holy justification for why I'm so angry at this person, why I'm looking down, why I'm not being mechabe this person. It's so striking, no? The whole inyan of Korach is machlokes, and his whole presentation was unity. Because hagufa. That's how the Sitra Achra gets us. That's how it gets us. We come up with all the justifications in the world. All the justifications in the world, all the rationalizations. We're the tzaddik. Right? I don't like them because look what they're doing. They're getting in my way. So Hashem should help us that we don't fall into that. In this time, in this last generation, right before Mashiach comes, we should stay strong in this. Hashem's desire is to give us everything. Hashem wants us to have all the levels, all the worlds. Rich Meyer is saying is every one of us is really in a state of readiness to receive complete revelation. But people are stupid. We still just get lost. We get caught up in a lot of the wrong things. We have to have vayima'in, that we withhold, we restrain. I don't want to splinter off of the oneness of Hashem. I don't want to be like Korach. I want to have better midos. To enter into the avoda of true oneness. That if I don't see Hashem everywhere, I'm not actually seeing Hashem anywhere. Which means I need to see Hashem in every single Jew, no matter what. To be mamlich my friend over me. Somebody who's not my friend, to be mamlich them over me. And to remember Hashem's oneness. You have to start wherever you can start. Whether it's bittul to the tzaddik, it's bittul to Hashem, it's bittul to another Jew. And it all flows one from the other. And if I think about these things with Mesiras Nefesh, then I'm willing to give up my life while I'm living. And I conduct myself in this way for real. Then I'm bizocha to tikkun nefesh with the coming of the geula berachmim. V'chol Yehudi shenichnas bezuha avoda, and any Jew who enters this avoda mashpia memela klal nishmas Yisrael. You're mashpia on the entirety of Klal Yisrael. Why? Because that's what this avoda is. This avoda is about being part of the entirety of Klal Yisrael. So if you do this avoda, memela, it's for all of Klal Yisrael. Vazai lo rak kama Yehudim yasku be'elam achshavos. And then it's not just a few Jews who are thinking about this. El b'derech shkeda berega k'meimer zeh yashpi al kulanu. It'll happen b'derech shked like the shkedim that came out of Aaron's mata. It happened quickly in an instant. They came out. This will flow everywhere. Latzes mikina taiva kavod machlokas, that will leave a state of jealousy, a state of temptation, a state of wanting my own honor, a state of arguing. We'll leave that. Uberega, in an instant, kememra yimshach aleinu dveikos b'bori kolam, will be in a state of complete and total dveikos to Hashem, in which everything is one. Yerachim Hashem yisbarach al amo. Hashem should have rachmim on His nation. She is orer amitios hayichud, that there should be an awakening of this true awareness of Hashem's oneness in this world that exists through everything. We don't have to understand exactly how it works, because we are able to be in a state of pella. We don't understand it. We can wonder about it, but we can know it's there. To be most nefesh, above understanding. And this will bring true shalom, true peace in an actualized state with the coming of Mashiach. Birachim b'mehera. Shkayach.